Okay, we are working on Duotone cut edge for our illustrations. Remember, flat color is a perfectly fine way to finish this off, but I want you to know and be able to recognize these different coloring techniques. So Duotone hard edge or cut edge is what we're working on here. And basically, I'm doing it with no feather at all. So you can just see I'm cutting right through the pixels between the highlights and the shadows. And where I have shadow I don't want, all I have to do is delete it. And I only have one layer unlocked, and that's my duotone shadows. So right now, those duotone shadows are affecting these two colors, but not those two colors. And I kind of like that, because a rainbow tail probably shouldn't have shadows on it anyway, right? So you can use this to kind of choose your lighting colors as well. Now, let me turn on the background. Let me turn on my black line art. And if I use black, everything will look too bright. So I like to use that middle gray. And I definitely need some highlights on the skull. Now it's tough because the skull itself is on fire. So where should the highlights be? Well, I want them on the inside of the flames. But I want these flames to look dynamic and kind of rippling. So let me see if this will work. And I'm just using my line art as kind of my stencil. And then where I'm going inside my color, that's me finding the edge of where that highlight's going to be, right? And then I can always cut away more if I think it can handle it. Whoops. But I got to know this is going to cut through all my color layers all at once. Okay, so I think that works. Then I want to show little highlights on each of these vertebrae and on the back of the skull, because it is surrounded by flames. And you see how it just helps everything kind of pop a little bit. And now the top of the skull, I definitely want to highlight it. And maybe have some kind of weird textural edges because it is bone, after all. So I let myself get a little shakier. And then maybe on the bottom of the orbital ridge, under the eye. So this is going to be kind of that spooky lighting because the lighting's coming from a weird direction. And then, let's see, maybe a little bit back here as well. Now remember, this is not hurting your flat color at all. Your flat color is underneath. It's fine. But this is choosing a lighting direction and condition. Then I'm going to have it a little bit on the underside of the jaw. Just a bit. But you decide where you want it. If you're going for a more animated look, keep it simpler, because the whole point of doing this in animation is to make it easily replicable by multiple animators. Give the teeth a little something. So it doesn't mean you have to use it everywhere. You kind of choose your battles. It doesn't make sense to have it be lighter in the eye socket. But if I want just a little bit of dimension, I can kind of play with that, even though it doesn't make sense. It's whatever you think works. And then I'm going to do it all the way at the top of the horn. Right? And then I got to do it on the rest of the flames. So now I'm making the flames a little directional. And I can do it in little sections. And I'm going beyond the kind of coloring that my reference had. And maybe it's too much, but I have to show you all this so that you can recognize it. Because very often in our visual culture, things get over-colored as well. Over-rendered, especially with AI. And you want to understand what's wrong so you can fix it. Yeah, so that's getting a little fussy. So I just want to clean this up. Okay, and then down here. Almost. And then up here. So it'd be great if there was a way that was less, well, it doesn't need to be time consuming. It just seems to usually take me some time to choose where these shadow distinctions are going to be. I don't know why that happened. So hit Command S every once in a while. Wait. What happened? Whoa, that was so weird. It like reverted to an earlier phase. Let's see if I can see in history. Oh, I accidentally hit delete somehow. Okay, good. That's why the history is really good. So I'm going to save my work. Because I lost something on my sandwich I wanted. Okay, so now kind of looking at it, I don't need to keep so many of the shadows here. So I'm going to go from here and start taking big chunks out. And I'm almost done, and I'm going to finish it up like that. Okay, so now I've got some duotone in there. Now I can play with it. So what is the duotone coloring doing? This is the hard edge duotone, looks like this. Again, I can play with its opacity because I tend to overdo it with the colors, so I can make it more subtle if I want, right? I can still trim it out anywhere I want to delete. And I can use clone stamp or just the paintbrush to add it back in, like if I wanted more of that shadow color. I have to use clone stamp because I'm using this layered texture approach, like colored paper. But remember, it's all underneath your lines, so you don't need to worry about coloring over your lines. So that looks pretty nice. Looks pretty nice. Yeah, and then there might be little things I want to soften a little bit. This doesn't really make sense. Okay. All right, so let me turn on my offset and see how that helps. That kind of helps and is consistent. How does it look on black? Yep, that helps and that looks pretty consistent. So now this is colored very much in the way that my reference is. This one just has 3 tones instead of 2. You see that? So this is duotone hard edge. That's what I've just done. This one is what's called full spectrum color because it's not just the local color split into a light and a shadow. It also has this kind of key color that's a different spectrum. But let me show you now how I can duplicate this and we're going to make it a soft-edged example. So we always start with hard edge, but now I'm going to do soft edge shadows. And I'm going to make this red. I'm going to turn off the duotone layer. I'm going to put the opacity up fully, just so you can see it again. And what I'm going to do now is go to filter. And this is the only filter we use in this class, because filters are basically things that Adobe employees have created to do work for you, but you don't get to control it, right? But there is one filter that's absolutely essential for digital imaging, and it is the blur filter. And the blur we use, this is to take focus away, is the Gaussian blur. So Gaussian blur will take my hard edge duotone shadows and will soften them, right? And I get to decide how much. So that would be soft edge duotone. You guys see it? It gradates that edge, it blends it. So I'm going to put it right about there. All right, so what I just did was soft edge duotone. So let's look at the difference between them. Soft edged, all those shadow shapes are soft edged, kind of blended. Hard edged or cut edged, they're all really clean. That's the difference, right? You can even have them both on, but it can be a little overkill. So let's look at the slides and see examples of soft edge duotone. This is soft edge duotone. The other way you can do it and play with it, which is a lot of fun, is to make a duplicate of your flat color, right? And then unlock it, and then use dodge and burn on it. So a lot of people do their shadowing with dodge and burn, just like we did with our composites. So I'm going to do a really big brush. I'm going to have it affect the midtones. I have to merge this group in order to do it. Yep. And usually I would say always use this under 30%. So midtones 30%, I'm going to burn in the soft edge shadows. And because I have a soft edge brush, this works pretty well. So I'm doing soft edged, I'm showing you soft edge duotone in two ways. One is with dodging and burning, which a lot of people love, but it won't work on colors that are really light, right? Because they're already there, you'd have to switch to highlights for that. So this is on the midtones. But it does target it very nicely. So let's go to the highlights now, and now I'm going to burn the highlights down. And you see when you burn, this is why I don't love using dodge and burn for this as much, because when you burn, it takes the color away. And when you, especially on shadows, and when you burn midtones and highlights, it saturates the color. So you kind of lose control of your color a little bit doing it. And then let's use dodge. Dodge will be for our highlights, right? So I'm going to go to the highlights, less than 30%, big soft brush, just like we did in compositing. And now I'm going to really brighten just some parts. But if it's a middle tone like that red, which is not a highlight, I'll have to do the midtones in order to brighten the red. And that red is just so intense, like nothing seems to shift it too much. So this is also duotone soft edge. So duotone soft edge, duotone soft edge, duotone hard edge. Now what if I blend these two together? Use opacity. So now my duotone soft edge is even softer. And I use my trick of setting it to dissolve.